Hi folks, hope you're doing well. Blake here and I'm back with another weekly video of musical content. It's been a little while since I did a guitar lesson, so I'm back with one today, and I thought I'd cover something quite important. So this is for some beginner and maybe some intermediate guitarists as well, and it's how to play the pentatonic scale. Now I'm going to break this video up into a few separate parts because eventually we want to be able to play it all over the neck, and I'm going to start from absolute beginnings to the point where you can link it all together and play it all over the fretboard to different songs. And I'm going to start out today with the major pentatonic scale shape. So often the pentatonic scale is taught in what's called box patterns, or in 5 separate shape patterns that fit together to cover the whole 12 fret octave of the fretboard. So firstly, I'm going to show you the major pentatonic pattern, which starts on the bass E string, which is one of the 5 patterns. And then if you want to know more about the theory, later in the video I'll talk about how it's derived from the major scale and how you can move this up and down the fretboard, and I'll also show you some simple exercises you can do to get used to playing the pentatonic scale so that you can use it in your solos and so on. Okay, so let's get into it. So first we're going to talk about the pattern. Now what we want to do is we want to just take our 4 fingers here and we're going to number them 1, 2, 3 and 4, and this is just going to make it easy when I'm calling out the pattern to know which finger we're using. We've got 1, 2, 3 and 4 on our fingers, and what we're going to do is pick a note to start on the bass E string. And I think we're going to start here on the 5th note. The 5th note on the bass E string is an A note. Okay, so for learning purposes, it doesn't matter really which note we start on, but if we are starting on A, which is here, the 5th note, then we're going to be playing the A major pentatonic. Similarly, if we start on B, the 7th note, we're going to play the B major pentatonic, and so on. So whatever note you start on, that is the root for your pentatonic major scale. Okay, so if we're starting on the 5th note here, we take our 4 fingers, remember they're numbered 1, 2, 3 and 4, and we need to play the following sequence. So we start with our middle finger, which is on the note that we're starting on, in this case A. We're going to play 2, 4 in terms of fingers, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, 2, 4. And that's it, that's the major pentatonic scale. So just to go over that again, in A, of course, the fret numbers will be different to elsewhere, but you can keep following this same pattern of fingers. So we always start with our middle finger on the root note of the major pentatonic scale. Going from this one, our middle finger, which remember is number 2, we go 2, 4 on the bass E string, then we go 1, 4 on the A string, 1, 4 on the D string, 1, 3 on the G string, 2, 4 on the B string, and 2, 4 on the high E string. Okay, so that is the pattern, so we can play that wherever. So that was it at A, but we can play it wherever we want. So if your song was in the key of C, let's say, you might want to play C major pentatonic as an example of something you could use to solo over the top. Now the C note is the 8th note of the bass E string. So again, we just do that same pattern. And again, if we just count the fingers that are playing, we start on the 2nd finger on the 8th fret and we go 2, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, 2, 4. So that means that transposing this is actually really easy. We keep the same pattern and we just start with our 2nd finger on a different note. So one video that will help you know how to transpose different parts of the pentatonic scale is knowing where notes are on the fretboard, and I've actually done a video about that and you can check that out here. And I've also done a video which is related to the major scale, playing the major scale, and later I'll talk about how this can be derived from the major scale. So for that video you can check it out here, and I'll put links to those videos in the cards above. Okay, so that's the major pentatonic pattern. How do we practice it so that we can remember it instinctively? Okay, so here's what I'd recommend for practicing your scales. It's good to know the notes, but you want to be able to play them in time, not only with songs, but with whatever you're playing along to. And so I recommend you use a metronome. Now you can buy them if you want. I bought this one online. You can also get them free, so there's a lot of apps online that you can use and download them to your phone. And it's essentially just a little machine, and it'll bleep to the kind of timing that you've set. So if you set 60 beats per minute, then every second it'll make a bleeping noise. If you set it to 120 beats per minute, then every second it'll make 2 bleeping noises. And basically trying to play in time with this will really help your timing, and it'll also cement the pattern so you can very easily remember it. Okay, so I've set my metronome up and it's at 60 beats per minute, and if I play it, hopefully you'll hear what that sounds like. So hopefully you can hear that beeping. And here's what we'll do to try and learn the pattern alongside the metronome. Remember, if you're getting the pattern and you're getting more practice to it, you could make the metronome faster. Ultimately, you want to know the pattern and you want to be playing it in time with the metronome. So don't make the metronome too quick to the point where you can't stay in time with it, okay? Okay, so the first practice exercise we're going to do is all downstrokes. So you can start wherever you want. Again, just for simplicity, I'll stay at A, and I'm going to do all downstrokes. Firstly on the way down, and then on the way up. At this point I'm at 60 beats per minute, and I'm going to do one note basically per beat. So I'll play them exactly in time with the metronome, and here's what it'll sound like. If you're easily getting to grips with that, then the next step would be to play several notes per beat. So if we move it, rather than doing one note every time there's a beat on the metronome, we now do 2. We get something like this instead. And as I've mentioned, you can change the metronome to make it as fast or as slow as you like. So really get to grips with that until you're used to playing the pattern. The next thing we're going to do is play only upstrokes. So rather than downstrokes, we're going to play only upstrokes. Now this is a little bit harder, so be sure to take your time with it. Again, here is upstrokes, one note per beat using the metronome at 60 beats per minute. And again, that's subject to the same thing as before, so you can play it quicker, you can speed up the metronome, you can change the time signature you're playing in so that you're playing several notes per kind of beat of the metronome rather than just one. And again, move through that until you're used to doing it. And then the next one I want to show you is we go from playing downwards and then playing upwards, and now we're going to play alternate strokes. We're going to start on a downstroke on the first note, and then we're going to go to an upstroke on the next one, and so on. We're going to alternate going down and back up the scale. This will help you both get your picking sorted for up and down strokes with your right hand, and also help you to remember the pattern with your left. So here's an example of that. Okay, so for learning the major pentatonic scale, I've got one more exercise. So rather than going from the lowest note to the highest and then going back again, we're going to now play the notes in sets of threes. So rather than playing, we're going to do 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to start at the second note and go 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to start the third note and go 1, 2, 3. The fourth note. And so on, and it goes like this. Here it is with the metronome at 80 beats per minute. So that was the first pattern of the pentatonic scale that I'm going to go over, and eventually we'll cover the whole fretboard using it. And often people start with what's called the minor pentatonic rather than the major. And the reason I've started with the major is actually so that I can talk about how we make the pentatonic scale, what it's derived from. And so in this part I'm going to talk a little bit about the theory. Now you don't have to know the theory, but it's quite useful to know where it comes from and to help you see it on the fretboard as well. So if you've seen my video on the major scale, then you'll know a few things. First of all, you'll know that when we play the major scale, the pattern looks like this. Now I said in that major scale video that we can actually number those notes. So if we're starting at C, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then when we get back to C, at the octave, we're back to 1 because that's the same note even though it's an octave higher than this. So how is the pentatonic scale built from this? So if we lay out all the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then back to 1, all we're doing in the pentatonic scale is we're dropping a couple of numbers out. So with those 7 notes, what we're saying is in the major scale there are 7 unique notes, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then when we get to there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're starting again, it doesn't kind of lead to more notes. So we've only got those 7 notes in the major scale. The note names may change, but of course the shape that you're playing stays exactly the same. Now if we compare that shape that I just showed you to instead the major pentatonic, what we see is that actually the notes that are in the pentatonic scale are taken directly from the major scale. So the 1, 2, 3 are the same. We miss the 4, but the 5, 6 are the same, and then we're back to 1. So we've lost 2 notes from the major scale. So what we can say is rather than being 7 individual notes, there are 5 individual unique notes in the major pentatonic scale. And the reason this is in the name is because penta comes from the Greek for pente, which basically means 5, and you can think of pentagon, so a 5-sided shape, or a pentathlon, a modern pentathlon, so a 5-stage event at the Olympics. And the tonic obviously comes from tones, so 5 tones. There's 5 unique tones in the pentatonic scale. Okay, thanks very much for watching. I hope that was helpful. That was how to play the major pentatonic scale, starting with the major note on the bass E string. It's one of 5 patterns that make up the pentatonic scale over the whole fretboard, and I'll recover those in future lessons so that eventually you'll be able to solo using the pentatonic scale all over the fretboard. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to like and leave a comment and let me know what you found helpful. Please share it. I also do content like this every single week, so I do lots of different guitar lessons, but I also do my own songs, I used to do gag reels, I promote local musicians, I do loads and loads of musical stuff. So if you're into musical content and you enjoyed this video, then please consider clicking the subscribe and notification bells, and you'll get notified every time I do a video, which is about once every week. Thanks very much, take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.
I might have missed She wears ducks on her feet, elephants in her sheets, holds on to old things